Hi folks, it's Beck here. Today I'm going to be doing a video tutorial on how to get started with VPaint. I've imported a free asset here from the asset store called Palace of Orinthalion. Got to give them a shout out because their asset is pretty sweet and they've released it for free. So I'd highly recommend checking it out for your fantasy projects, or even if you're just curious how to make something that looks cool. You know, it's a good example. So today I'm going to be demonstrating how to use VPaint, the Advanced Vertex Painter for Unity 3D. If you're curious what that is, go check out the Asset Store page in the description down there, and the forum thread where I can answer your questions or comments or suggestions or what have you. So let's get started. The first thing you want to check when you're trying to paint some vertex colors on a mesh is that you're actually using a material that uses vertex colors. You see I've assigned VPaint lit vertex colors. You don't necessarily have to use a VPaint shader, but you do have to use one that actually uses vertex colors for it to show up. VPaint comes with a whole bunch of them. You can really easily make one in Strumpies or Shader Forge. So after you've checked that, go ahead and select the objects you want to paint on and go to Game Object, VPaint, Create Paint Group. Now a paint group is basically just a group of objects that you want to paint on together. You can turn on and off paint groups during runtime, which is kind of a useful feature in some cases. And also it's nice to just separate your scene out so that you can have different layer stacks. You can have different settings for each group, and it's rather nice. In this case, I'm just going to paint on both objects in one group to make it easier to demo. But go ahead and do what you like with these guys. If you want to manage what is contained inside of a VPaint group, you can go down to Maintenance and then open Object Manager, and then you can see your objects in here. Find out what you've got loaded into here. This is also where you can transfer vertices and other cool functions that I might go into in a later video. Or check out the manual. It describes it all. So you've got this VPaint window here that popped up. Go ahead and dock that if you want. And I'm just going to go ahead and close some of the things that we're not going to use for now. So you notice that our objects in here turned black. That's because we currently don't have any vertex colors assigned. So I'm just going to flood these guys with white. So if I select white on the color settings, and this little arrow up here pulls up some nice functions that we can use. We can flood fill. We'll flood them all with the currently selected color. Now I'm going to explain this color palette a little bit. Here we can toggle off which channels we're currently painting with. So if we only want to paint red, green, blue, whatever, you can select those there. These are the different color settings. So you notice how when you click on them it changes which color setting we're using. In tool settings, we can control our brush size, or the opacity of our painting, and the fall off of our brush, which you notice is set kind of in a middle ground here. Up here we've got RGB, which helps us, or the vertex color channels, which help us preview what the vertex colors currently are. So first let's get a little bit of painting in there so that we can see the effect of this thing. So I'm going to just select kind of a brown color and zoom in here and add some darker brown to the base here. So you notice that I can just go and paint on any part of the object here. I can go over here and paint some colors or what have you. Vertex colors are great for ambient occlusion, which you can do automatically with VPaint. It comes with it, available in the free version of Unity. But it's also a really nice tool for adding variation to your models. Like say you've got 50 of these guys instanced to save texture memory. You might want to still add a little bit of variation to these guys. So you can go in and paint some vertex colors on this. Give it a little bit less of a repeated feel. So you can go in and do all kinds of stuff with this guy. Because this shader just renders the vertex colors as well as the diffuse, all we're going to get is the raw colors. So you notice here I click on RGB and we can preview what the vertex colors are on our model. If you're handy with shaders, you'll be able to kind of debug your shaders this way. And as well, this is just a nice way to cleanly look at what you're working on. You can also click on the individual channels, so you see like this is the red channel, the green channel, blue channel, alpha channel, and that will help you kind of determine errors if you're making them. So we've got this stuff down here, and say I want to work a little bit without necessarily breaking my work. You know, I paint a little blue on here. I could undo it, but that's going to get a little bit messy after a while. So we can go down here to the layers hierarchy and create a new layer. So we to select this guy, we just go to layers, new layer. So we've got our new layer here, and so we can just go up and, you know, say I want to paint a little bit of blue up here. Let's go back to normal view. Get a little bit of blue tint. So cool. Our objects have some colors on them, but you know, maybe I want to tone that back a little bit. So let's take the opacity down just slightly. You know, you can also do additive, so that it only adds the color. In this case, because I used a really bright color, it's not going to do a whole lot. But multiply, you know, if you use Photoshop, you're going to be familiar with these guys. But let's just leave it at opaque for this guy. What's really useful about these layers is that they can be accessed during runtime. So say you want to do a transition of just straight up, you know, whatever, all the way up to blue rock. You can interpolate that during runtime. It's really good for a day-night cycle. It's not super cheap to do that for a ton of objects at once. There's really no way to do that quickly. But even if you wanted to do a switch, like a quick switch or something, it's possible. Or lighting states even. There's a lot of possibility there. And if you come up with something clever, feel free to post it in the forum thread, because I'd love to see it. So yeah, that's the layer hierarchy. It's pretty simple. You can go through here. You see I've got some hotkeys set up. You can collapse all of them, which will just collapse it down. You can create a merged version of all of your layers, which is kind of nice sometimes if you want to just like save a state. You can merge down on an individual layer, and duplicate, and all those things that are pretty dang useful. So that's kind of the gist of the layers tab and the paint settings. I hope that gives a good overview of what they do. So let's get to the ambient occlusion. If we open up our layers hierarchy, you'll notice that there's these two other tabs beyond just layer management. There's import for base layer, light maps, texture. You can import your light maps into vertex colors from your VSpake, which can be really useful for saving on texture memory in a mobile game. You can import another VPaint group if you need a copy. You can make full adjustments to all of your layers, and blending is a really cool feature, and I'll probably go into that in another video. But for now, let's just import our ambient occlusion. So that pulls up the import ambient occlusion panel. And so the first thing that we want to do when importing our ambient occlusion is add some objects. If you just want to bake ambient occlusion on everything, just add all. You notice that both of our objects in here got added to the group. Light color and dark color, that's just, you know, what is fully occluded, what is fully unoccluded. Samples is going to be your real kicker for testing things out. So, for example, I'm going to set this down to 200 just for good measure, because my laptop's a little chuggy and I don't want to ruin this video. So import, we'll pull in, do all the samples on both of the objects, and bam, you got some ambient occlusion. Now, it doesn't look like it did a whole lot of useful stuff, but what you want to probably do is set it to multiply. So you see there, we've got a little bit of ambient occlusion popping in. AO just really works best as multiply. Like you'll notice if I go into RGB, we've got our ambient occlusion baked in here, but you probably want to combine it with something else. So I'm going to go in and multiply, and see. This kind of adds it to our original thing. Now, just for the demonstration purposes, I feel like that's just not very strong. So I'm going to remove that and bump up the intensity to 2. And you know, the radius, like usually I set the samples low when I'm doing when I'm trying to find the right radius, but that radius looked pretty good. That's kind of the width of it. You have to keep in mind with vertex colors that it interpolates the AO from one vertex to another, so there's only so much resolution you can get, but it really is a performance saver instead of having a bunch of extra textures. For example, if you're using tiling textures on a lot of stuff, you really just can't do AO with a tiling texture unless you use like a light map, which, you know, is also pretty memory intensive. So vertex colors can really save you a lot in that lane. So I'm going to go ahead and import again. And it will take a moment. You can this AO implementation is accessible from runtime. So if you're like doing a bunch of dynamic objects and you like sit it on the ground and you want to calculate AO in that region, there's a runtime API just specifically for that kind of stuff. So check it out. There's a AO on our objects. Looks pretty good. If I go to normal view, it's a little bit more apparent how that's functioning. Let me just back that off. Looks a little better, right? More grounded. So yeah, that's the ambient occlusion. I hope that helps explain exactly what a lot of this stuff does. I hope to do another video pretty soon demonstrating some of the other features like object isolation and some of the adjustments and import settings. But for now, I think that'll do it. So thanks for watching. Check out the forum thread and the asset store link and post your thoughts. Thanks.